Good morning, folks. Joseph here. Today, I want to talk to you about risk related to the Turo game and private rentals, really just all sorts of risk of dealing with car rentals, because this is what you're selling. You're selling miles, and you're also mitigating your profits from the miles with risk, with incidents that you can collect on and make money on, and some incidents where you can't collect, and at the very worst case, an incident that costs you one of your vehicles, or even worse, potentially liability. But we'll get to that in a minute. That's not really an issue. So you just have to be aware that that is one of the things that you're selling whenever you do a car rental. So let's talk about this framework first, before like the shield of Turo kicks in. So let's say you're renting a vehicle to someone on your own. You're probably not commercially insured because in New York, they're just not writing commercial policies. You can't get them. You need to be probably a New Jersey company and/or exist for 10 years, have 10 years worth of loss runs, meaning records of what you lost on insurance. Those have to be within permissible ranges, and it's going to be expensive as hell. So you're probably not getting commercial insurance. So really, the only thing between you and a direct lawsuit is your personal insurance on your vehicle, which will promptly be denied if they find out that it was a rental. And then the other person's insurance, which is your job. Again, Turo handles this, but in a private rental situation, it's your job to verify the insurance, make sure you have the proper limits, make sure that the insured party's insurance is okay with them renting a car that is oftentimes, many times more expensive than what they're driving, almost always, and that they'll cover that whole thing. Not only the liability for it, but the actual replacement value and repairs. So, let's say you've done all that, you've verified their insurance, there's an accident. In theory, you're making, they're the first party, there's a claim going through their insurance, they cooperate with you, which they might not want to because they might not want their rates to go up. We sometimes get a power of attorney. We get a legal authorization to work with a company, a person's insurance on their behalf, and sometimes against their will, but on their behalf. So we don't have to worry about the risk of this person disclaiming, saying they didn't rent it, or they didn't do it, or they're not willing to work with their insurance. But let's say that fails. You've got your insurance, and it's pretty likely that, unless you're able to convince them that it was a friend driving, it's pretty likely that they're just going to deny the claim as well. So that's the risk there. So this is the world that Turo has improved, right? Because Turo has their own insurance, which you choose 90, 80, 70 plan. That's keeping 90, 80, or 70% of your profits. And, you have deductibles in turn that lower based on where you are with that. With a Turo claim, all you need to do is submit photo evidence before and after to Turo, and their adjusters will handle it. They're usually pretty generous. We talked about this in a previous email. So your vehicle is definitely protected in a better sense than it would be if you were doing a private rental. Now, the liability side of things, this is interesting because it's kind of, on the Turo side, these folks, when they buy Turo, are actually buying a big liability policy, a $1.25 million policy for themselves, to protect themselves. You really don't care about them and their liability because of the federal Graves Amendment that was passed, I think it was mid-2000s. They passed a federal amendment that basically, it outlaws vicarious liability in the rental business. So what does that mean? That basically means that as the supplier of a car, you are simply the supplier of the car. Now, this doesn't mean that someone's going to pay for your repairs. You still have to be, on top of that. But if a party rents your car, the agreement is proper, And the key term here is if the vehicle has not been, if there's no negligence, no gross negligence on the part of maintenance, which is why it's always important to, do your state inspection annually, but get that vehicle to a dealer. I'd say once every 6 months, just to have on paper that a dealer was under there, they did a 125-point inspection, and there's nothing glaring. That's your defense. Federally in every state, that's your defense, where you will be, dropped from the lawsuit so long as there was no gross negligence on your part. But at any rate, that's where Graves is. So, Turo is an additional layer because they actually are selling counter insurance. They're selling insurance for that party that's renting your car. But, in the Turo and private worlds, as long as you're non-negligent and your rental agreements are proper, Graves protects you, and you don't have vicarious liability. Even if someone was extremely reckless with your vehicle, injured a lot of people, killed people, that's not on you. As long as a mechanical failure that you overlooked did not cause that incident, and that will probably be brought to court and potentially argued. But it's likely that your case will be dismissed. I'm curious to hear anyone's stories about liability or just issues you've had, claims that are not the norm, sticky situations, or even situations that have compromised your business. DM me, throw it in the comments. I want to create some dialogue around this because it's tricky out there, and we're hedging against an increasing amount of risk for the returns. You look at the raw returns, they're good. You say, oh, $500 a day, $1,000 a day for this car and that car. But think about the 1% case that could be a $300,000 loss, and look at the expected value of that over time, and things may not be so good. So I want to hear what folks have to say. Cheers. Cheers, everyone.